why am I doing another report about the BC Conservatives not being actually conservative? I mean, I know why. I'm a journalist. I'm going to be bringing you the news. But why is it so hard for that party under John Rustad's leadership to live up to its own name when it comes to matters like free speech and refusing to bow down before the left's favorite divide and conquer weapon, identity politics? I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and today I sit down with Lindsay Shepherd, a mother, a key person behind the rise in the BC Conservative in recent years, and yet to be the latest to get the boot from the party for standing on unpopular truths about unmarked grave propaganda. Lindsay Shepherd is no stranger to being punished for speaking truth. Years ago, while working as a teacher assistant at Wilfrid Laurier University, she was disciplined for showing students a clip, yes, a clip, of then Canadian psych professor Jordan Peterson debating the biological differences between men and women and why gender-neutral pronouns conflict with that reality, because apparently showing adult students the other side of the debate is harmful, at least in liberal universities. But when it comes to expressing commonly held yet politically incorrect views grounded in truth, you would think Lindsay had found her safe professional ground in her new former role as communications officer with the Conservative Party of BC. A party whose claim to value free speech and transparency, but instead, last week, a very pregnant Shepherd who was just about to take maternity leave was abruptly exiled from her position last week for the thought crime of posting this on Truth and Reconciliation Day. It's a tweet of the opinion that the orange shirt and the orange flag, which, by the way, was propped up at the legislature, perpetuate untruths about Canadian history, such as the grandest lie of all that in 2021, 215 children's graves were unearthed in the former Kamloops residential school grounds. A lie that many British Columbians and Canadians still believe to be true today, mainly because the left and their institutions brand you as a racist residential school denier if you dare share the good news that 4 years later, not a single body has ever been found there. But in John Rustad's party, truth about unmarked grave propaganda isn't tolerated. You must let the lie live or be fired. Just ask Dallas Brody, the party's former MLA, who is now serving as the leader of the One BC party, after not just being kicked out of Rustad's caucus for correctly stating that there were 0 bodies discovered there, but also after Rustad put out a statement falsely accusing Brody of mocking sexual abuse survivors to, I don't know, try to explain away to his own members why he is getting rid of people who share their views. And meanwhile, Shepherd, forbidden from helping the party craft its message any longer, is gone, while Ryan Painter remains in the position of the party's communication director, comfortably, I might add. Even after, as many of you recall, there were calls for him to be fired by Conservative voters after he publicly slandered My Rebel News reports exposing SOGI, the sexual orientation, gender identity fluid program in schools, calling them BS, scare tactics, and that there's no child grooming happening. That's all fake news, even though we've done hundreds of reports proving the opposite at our special website called StopClassroomGrooming.com, reports exposing not just 1, not 10, not 100, but thousands of sexual misconduct cases between teachers and the kids in just 2 Canadian provinces over the last decade. Or how about teachers who've become sex activists and push that on kids, making them gender confused, like Sarah here, who made changes to her body that she can't recover from when she was young and says she was groomed in school and wishes adults had protected her. But no, Ryan Painter has found a home in the Conservative Party, the Conservative Party that John Rustad sweared would be the one to get rid of SOGI from schools. But here we are with Dallas Brody and Lindsay Shepherd banned from the party, even though the BC Conservatives say they were the ones who were going to get Soji out of schools. But should we be surprised that anybody who goes up against the reconciliation industry or its overreach get the boot? After all, John Rustad told us this.
So when I was Minister for Aboriginal Relations and Reconciliation, I signed 435 agreements. We had a great team of people that did negotiations. But what it was it's all about trying to create economic reconciliation, agreements that had First Nations engaging in the economy, engaging in what was going on in the landscape, even engaging in things like healthcare. So it was very important in terms of advancing reconciliation in British Columbia, in terms of how we shape these agreements.
Now, a lot of those agreements were good things for all Canadians, a mutual benefit for First Nations. But are we seeing the hypocrisy when it comes to speaking out on this matter? That it could be more of a loyalty issue being exposed. I spoke with Lindsay Shepherd about her exile and what she's going to do next. And here she is, beginning with why she felt the need to post the post she did on X in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was kind of leading up to Orange Shirt Day, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And the thing is with this day, it was created in 2021. So that's the context of this federal holiday, stat holiday in BC. And 2021 in May was the year that the Kamloops band in Kamloops claimed that they found 215 remains of children on the grounds of the former residential school. And that just hasn't been proven to be the case in all these years. And, if you're going to have a day called the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, then I think there needs to be truth. And so that's just not something I believe people should be celebrating. So at the BC legislature, they put up this orange flag and they kind of permanently are exhibiting the orange shirt. And, it just makes me think, I don't want to participate in your framing of this orange shirt and of this day because you're setting me up to lose. You're setting anyone who thinks in a right wing or independent minded way, you're setting them up to lose. And anyone who wants to say, hey, like, what is the status on this 215? Like, why are we being told to revisit this story kind of every year on Orange Shirt Day and on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation when it hasn't proven to be the case? And I know Orange Shirt Day has a little bit of a different backstory, but the thing is, it all came together in 2021, which was the Kamloops year.
What were your thoughts when you started first being told to take it down?
Yeah, I mean, I did feel comfortable. I feel like this, like we've seen the success of a book like Grave Error. Like this is a position, questioning this day and not participating in it is something that you see among mainstream and in the conservative. And so I didn't think I was doing something radical or out of pocket by criticizing the propagandization of like the orange flag and the orange shirt. So I was asked to delete it, and it is a dilemma for me to be asked to do something like that. But I figured, like sometimes in life you have to suck it up, and so I did. But it didn't matter in the end because the BC Conservatives, John Rustad, fired me over the tweet. And it just shows it doesn't matter, right? Like they'll tell you, please delete it. Okay, thank you so much for taking it down. And they'll pretend like it's all good.
Quite on the ball there, and you recorded what that sounded like. Let's take a listen.
Lindsay, this is not an easy call for us to make. Your tweet has caused significant issues across the province. Whether done intentionally or not, this is not the behavior that is expected from staff. And John Rustad has made the decision that we have to let you go effective immediately. And I wanted to say thank you for your service.
I did what was asked of me, and I immediately took the tweet down when I was asked by Bruce Bandman. And when I was asked to not speak to Katie DeRosa, I didn't. So the thing is, like, I did follow directions.
Okay. For that, but thanks. As I said, John Rustad has made the decision.
Okay. Is there room to talk about, like, what about if there was an amicable way to do this where I go on mat leave super early and then, like political winds can change in 18 months and then I come back?
This is the direction that we've been given from John Rustad, the leader.
Now, if there's anybody who should know that they shouldn't be backed into this type of corner, it should be John Rustad. When he was with the BC Liberals, he was told, you better take this tweet down that didn't align with the climate change agenda. And he said no, and he was kicked out on his birthday. I mean, this has always been the sob story that he gave with becoming a conservative and wanting, so it seemed, to stand for these free speech values. But now he and the party is claiming that you essentially caused a rift with this post across the whole province. So what do you say to that?
I say the rift was two NDP MLAs, Rohini Arora and Spencer Chandra Herbert. They rolled out their usual, this is denialism. It's not denialism. It's actually asking for more information and wanting to engage more deeply with the story and with British Columbian history and with what's going on. There was no denialism of anything. So two NDP MLAs and the UBCIC, so the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, the head of that was rolling out the usual, like, oh, this is hate, this is far-right extremism, whatnot. But that man, that head of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, he's married to an NDP MLA. So of course, like they're setting up all these traps, and John Rustad is just falling into them. And ultimately, he chose those NDP MLAs, and he chose to go with their narrative instead of sticking up for conservatives and sticking up for his own. And what does that get you in the end? Nothing, because for someone like Rohini Arora, she was like, oh yeah, yay, Lindsay's fired. On to the next. These guys still suck. Somewhere where I really differed was I value independent media, because I worked at True North, which is now called Juno News. I worked there for many years before joining the BC Conservatives. And so I've kind of always had this appreciation for independent media, whereas you'll find with a lot of conservatives, political conservatives, that they are desperate for mainstream media legitimacy. And that's something that they're really chasing. And so that's kind of, somewhere where we differed, but it's not a life-threatening difference, right?
Mm-hmm. What's your advice to people in this day and age where standing in truth gets these types of hard hits?
Yeah, I mean, I think just look at this situation, conservatives standing with Rohini Arora, the settler from Burnaby East, and Spencer Chandra Herbert. Like, these people don't like you. They're not going to vote for you. Why are you choosing them? You know what, though? I still have hope for the BC Conservatives as a party. It's just kind of when you have a leader who's weak and who caves, and that's John Rustad. He caved, right? And he didn't stick up for conservatives. That just shows he doesn't have what it takes to be a premier, and he won't be, so.
And what's next for you? I know this is happening to you just before you were about to take maternity, I believe, with your second child. How's your family coping, and what do you think this means for you in the future?
Yeah, my third child. So at least I guess, in the mindset of being ready to take a break and go on maternity leave, but this definitely changes the plan, I will say. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Lindsay Shepherd, for standing in truth. Sorry this happened, but I have a feeling good things will come your way because of it.
John Rustad isn't just showing political inconsistencies, he's showing consistent hypocrisy. So it's no surprise that calls for him to resign are at an all-time high as he ends into the fall session for the legislature. If you appreciate that even though Rebel News is conservative news, we're exposing this controversy for you, please consider being a part of making our reports continue to go strong by donating what you can at bcleadershipreports.ca.